Hey, welcome to another episode of C's Backyard Bees. Today we are doing a spring check, and what I mean by spring check is we are checking for three things. The primary thing that we are checking for is space. So I have a honey super on Hive 4 and a honey super on Hive 1. So we're looking into that super to see if we need to add a second one. The next thing we are checking for is queen health. Every time we do a check, we look for queen health. Has she laid eggs? If we see eggs, we know that she's alive within the last 3 days, and that is good to go. On a normal hive check, that's all we'd look for, and then we'd button it back up. But during spring, we are mainly concerned about swarm cells. So we're going to be looking for swarm cells in Hive 4 and 1. And swarm cells typically appear at the bottom of your brood frames, at the very bottom of them, and they can be sneaky. So you really have to take your time, go through each one of those frames, and look for these swarm cells. Especially right now, as our weather is really funky. So you can get in these some days and you can't get into the other as it's raining or snowing or whatever it might be doing. I believe that even though there are drones in my hives, I do not want a swarm to happen, just because it limits your production in your hives. Also, they can't get mated 100% in my opinion. Those mating flights happening right now would be the middle of May. We don't know what weather we're going to be getting in the middle of May, so I really like to push them back. Even making splits right now, if you want them to raise their own queen, I would say that Mother's Day time frame is kind of where you want to be when you're making those splits. That way, those queens are emerging at the end of May, and they can really find a good mate to mate with, several mates, as queens mate with several drones before they come back. So let's get into this hive. Let's see what's going on. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna jump in. We're gonna take a look to see if we can find any swarm cells, check the super. The other thing is when I put on this bottom box, this bottom deep is not very good, and it actually has an entrance in the back that they're going in and out of, so I kind of want to take care of that soon. So just making a mental note that that needs taken care of. They're building some wonky comb here on top. I'll show you that here in 1 second. So wonky comb being built a little bit on top. That happens. It's something to scrape off and take care of. As I look down, all 8 frames are being worked, so these friends might need another super as well, which I probably should have prepared for, but it did not. So again, I'm not using a queen excluder this year. I'm trying this year without them, and there are some advantages and disadvantages with that. The main disadvantage is that the queen can lay in the super, and that's why you put a queen excluder. However, what I have found the last couple of years, every time I use a queen excluder, they run out of space. They honeybound themselves in the bottom too deep, run out of space, and then they want to swarm, which is a problem when they have a bunch of room up in the super. So I am not doing that honey super this year, and because of that, you'll see in a minute that they did lay some in the super, which is perfectly fine. Just cleaning off this wax at the bottom here. And they are definitely ready for a second super, which is great to see this hive doing so well. They kind of built comb all over the place, and it's kind of becoming a mess. It's a good thing I got into it today and didn't wait any longer. I'll get that second super on them right after I'm done. So I'm gonna quit talking for a minute and see if we can find some swarm cells as we take a look at these frames. It just really made a mess between the super and the second deep that there's a lot for me to clean up, and these frames aren't sitting in there nicely. So I'm gonna get these frames in there just kind of scattered, spread apart a little bit, and then fix them when I get all that wax that they put in there cleaned up, because they really built between, they did bridge comb between the boxes, which is a normal thing, but if you don't get that cleaned up, then it really messes up your boxes. So we are going to pull this super off. We have to anyway, and then we really have to clean up all this wax. So again, I'm putting my super on the ground on top of the lid. That way, if for some reason my queen is in there, she stays up off the ground. So I'm going to give these guys just a gentle blow of air to kind of clear them off the top here, and that way I can clean all of this extra comb that they've built off. Now we can see all this extra comb that they built. We're just going to scrape it right off. So it's good to keep your comb, because when you get new frames, you got to wax your frames. And having some comb all ready to go is a perfect way to wax those frames. This use everything that you can use kind of thing. Try not to smush bees as you do it. She just doesn't want to fly off. There we go. Alright, so we cleaned up the top of that, so next time hopefully they won't build all that bridge comb. I'm going to throw another super on them. That way they have some more room to work with, so hopefully they don't want to build all that bridge comb. And most of that bridge comb is just, they're building it to lay drones in. So I need to remember that for this hive, that I do want to take my supers off once in a while and clean all that up. So outside frames are usually food frames. That's what this is. I've been using a nuke box like this to put my first 2 frames in, and that really gives me a lot of room to work in my deep. And I didn't used to do that. I just used to put 1 frame on the ground, which works just fine. However, you have bees by your feet, and sometimes, like, if you're accidentally going to kick it or it tips over, then all of a sudden you have bees all over you, and you just have a higher chance of them getting into your pants and up your legs, and just a bigger chance of getting stung. So I decided to start using just a nuke on the side, and that way I can just slide 2 frames in. It gives me lots of room to work in my deep. Also, advantage of putting a nuke at the side is if for some reason I opened this up and it was just full, over full, and I need to make a split, and I just happen to run across my queen, I can just make that split right there and then. I don't have to close it all up, worry about my queen, worry about trying to find my queen again, because when you have this many bees in 2 deeps, finding your queen sometimes is very, very, very difficult. As I'm looking at this frame, there are a ton of eggs, which is awesome to see. It means that my queen has been on this frame within the last day, 2, maybe even 3 days. And I'm just doing a double glance at it again, because with that many eggs, she still might be on it, or she's definitely in the region, the vicinity. So definitely just slowing down for a second, looking for her. On a normal check, I would be done right now. I see that she is alive, that she is fine, and I would just button this back up because I know that they're doing just fine. However, as this is a strong colony coming into the spring, they have a tendency to swarm, and holy cow, look at all of that um, capped brood, both sides completely capped. But as I looked at that other side, I did see some swarm cells that I will bring up and show you on kind of where they're located, kind of what you're looking for as you go through all of this. I am looking to see if my queens, because I'm going to shake this down. So making sure queenie is not on here. You don't want to shake a frame with a queen on it. It's just, you try and keep that queen as safe as possible. So I'm going to shake these bees down. And then come show you what we're looking for when we talk about swarm cells. So swarm cells show up at the bottom of frames, and it's these right here. I think these are just cups, so they're not charged yet. There's no eggs in them, there's no larvae in them. However, they're building them to prepare for that time if they decided to want to swarm. So I just go in through all of these, crush them, make sure there are no more. Sometimes on these wooden frames, you get these gaps in the corners. And sometimes they like to hide a egg up there, hide a swarm cell up there. So you really got to check on those, make sure they are not doing that. So yeah, so kind of difference. These are all worker bees, girl bees. These are your drone bees. They have the bullet-shaped cap. They're typically at the bottom of your frames, and between your frames is where they do those drone bees. And the reason that you find them at the bottom in between is because drones need more room. They're bigger bees. They take longer to hatch, or longer to come out of their cell. So they need a larger cell in order to grow. So that's why you typically see those drones at the bottom of your frames. Again, as I'm looking down at these cells, I don't see eggs. I don't see an egg in there. We're gonna destroy them all, and they'll rebuild them, and that's the cycle that beekeepers just have to go through. We crush them, they rebuild them, and you just kind of keep doing that until they stop, or you split them, or you do get swarm cells and you decide to make a split. But again, I don't like making splits. We are in northern Colorado. I don't like making splits until we kind of hit that Mother's Day. I kind of think that, planting season is the same as splitting season. If you want them making their own queen, like I like them to do, I like them making their own queen, then I like doing a later split. So that split right around Mother's Day allows them to have a better opportunity for better weather at the end of May when they come out and mate. And it also just gives a better genetic what's the word I'm looking for? Just better genetics in general, as they have more mates to choose from. The longer you wait, the more drones are going to be flying, and the better mated your queen is going to be, in my opinion. So that is why I try and wait as long as possible to make splits. And again, I have a bunch of queen cups at the bottom of it. We'll see if any of them are charged. This is one disadvantage about these wood foundation frames that don't have the plastic foundation in them, is you get these holes on the bottom. You get these holes right here on the bottom, and you really have to look for queen cells because they sometimes like to hide them in the smallest places, and if they can get one to grow, you might have a small queen, and that even makes kind of things worse because they aren't allowed to grow to their full potential, and then you kind of have a weak queen if they did swarm, and then all of a sudden you're kind of left with this weak small queen, which is not the most ideal to be. So you really got to kind of glance all around, look in there, to make sure that they are not trying to hide a queen cell in there on you. Again, lots of drone brood on bottom. It's perfectly normal, what you expect to see. And my queen is alive and laying on this one. It's awesome to see. So we'll bring her to the camera here. Try not to drop this frame. So she is right here, going right towards the center, which is awesome to see. Definitely her in that first deep, laying in that first deep is also good to see, as well as we know that she's visiting down here. She knows that she has lots of room. She is less likely to swarm on me. So I'm going to make visual contact as I slide her back in, then I'm going to bump her up next to this other frame. I know that I'm not going to squish her, and then I can move a little faster now that I know where she's at. I can really go through these last 3 frames and not have to worry. I can even shake them down, do a quick glance. Nice looking capped brood frame. Go to the next one. So it's super nice. So that is what it is. So what we did was checked for swarm cells, checked for queen health. We found her. There's nothing better than checking for queen health except for finding your queen. We knew she was alive and laying because we did find a whole frame full of eggs, meaning that your queen is alive and good, right? We destroyed all the swarm cells that we found. Hopefully we found all of them, because if we did not find all of them, then it might be too late. Definitely if you're checking every 7 days. So if we missed one, it's already 7 days in the process of laying. The queen hatches in 16, so a lot of the times a swarm occurs on that 14th, 15th day, 13th day, 12th day even, and it's too late, right? So if you're looking for swarm cells, I really suggest you're opening your hive no less than once a week. 7 days I think is kind of the sweet spot in finding those cells, because once they are capped and your queen says it's time to go, it's time to go for them. So I'm trying to get, we have some weird spaces in this bottom deep. I need to replace this bottom deep. But yeah, so that is that. We are going to finish buttoning up. I'm also going to get another super and put it on top of this, just because they are on all 8 frames of the super. So I'm going to put another super on top. Gives them lots and lots of room. They can see that room, they can feel that room. Kind of keep them from, just another way to keep them from swarming. So that is all I have. If you like what you see, give me a like, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below, and I will see you next time.